All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. I'm just so excited, and I say that every single time. You guys probably get sick of me saying I'm so excited, but literally every opportunity that I get to do these podcasts is just it's just a wonderful opportunity. One, I get to talk to some successful Black men that I get to take mentorship from, that I get to learn from, that I get to experience. If success leaves clues, which I believe it does. Being able to do this, a couple times a week, we're doing 100 of them here in 2024, where I'm just learning over and over and over and over that not only is it possible. I was just watching, Kareem, I was just watching the Les Brown video from back in 1980, and it was titled, It's Possible. And he literally asked the whole crowd, does it say, it's possible. I don't want you to say a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't want you to just go into all these things. I'm not trying to have you memorize anything. I just want you at this point in your life to believe it's possible. And so that's one of the things that through this podcast and through this initiative and working on it, and I'm putting a boot camp together. And I just wrote a book called There Is No Tiger, which is about overcoming overthinking. And controlling anxiety as much as you can, because I think we get stuck sometimes in just our belief system, and our belief system holds us back, not because our belief system is what's going to be the same belief system our whole lives, but somehow however we grew up, however the associations that we have, whatever the jobs that we have, we created a belief system for ourselves, and inside that belief system, we hold ourselves back because we don't believe things are possible. Yeah. So Kareem, I am so glad that you are on here today. I am so looking forward to having this conversation with you and talking about this. I know we're going to talk a little bit about trauma in a little bit. We're going to talk about the 5 pillars, which are trust, faith, identity, finance, and health. So we'll dive into those just a little bit. Yeah. And then, really just kind of want to talk about you and your upbringing and what makes you be able to do the things that you're doing. And so, Kareem, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking because I'd rather listen to you. So I'm going to go ahead. Maybe you can just start off, talking a little bit about where you came from, what.
Having me as a guest on your show today. My name is Kareem Aminatu. I hail from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, known as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, born and raised.
All right.
I am a staunch Eagle fan, so don't mess with me when it comes to my birds. I understand our Sixers are doing pretty good right now, but growing up in North Philly was a regular city boy lifestyle. Played in the streets, kickball, handball, hopscotch, girls doing jump rope and all those things as a kid in high school. As I was going through, before I got to high school, my parents got divorced, and so I was at home. I was at home with my mom. My dad was gone, but he was still in my life though. So shout out to him and my mother. Both of them have since went on to the ancestral realm. They are deceased. Have been deceased since 1995.
Wow.
And they were at a very young age. They were both in their 50s when they transitioned, which was a very traumatic time for me because it was in the same year.
Okay.
But growing up with my mom, she was like a pillar in the block. She was a block captain. They don't do that anymore. They may do it in some of our inner cities. But she was a block captain that kind of brought neighbors together for a lot of activities that would go on the block. That's like block parties. I don't know, like a lot of folks today don't know what a block party is, but we know how to turn it up in regards to the folks in the neighborhood getting together and cooking out, having a DJ. Everybody staying roping off the street, and doing all those fun things like that. And so. My mom, she was, like I said, she was a block captain, well known in the neighborhood, and well loved and liked. A very, very excellent cook. She would cook all the time, and growing up in Philly as a kid, I witnessed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed a lot, some things that were not so desirable, and then things that were very desirable. During the eras of when gang violence was going on and things like that, and you have to be very careful about going up and down the street, what neighborhood you're in. That stuff was going on as well. But the whole drug thing coming through in the 80s, and things of that nature. But myself, I still was able to kind of stay, pretty stable because my family was rooted in the church. My grandmother was a pastor. My brother went to become a pastor himself, who was still a pastor now. He's been pastoring one of the largest churches in Philadelphia for over 35 years. And so our family was pretty rooted in that. And so the values and things like that kind of stayed with me. Going through high school, did normal high school things, getting involved in sports and doing those things. Played a little football. Didn't play up until my senior year. I played sophomore and junior year, and in the senior year I had to kind of quit the team due to the fact that I had to go to work to help my mom out, and got a job and things of that nature. But that was fun though. I think I had like one of the best jobs you could ever get as a young teenage guy. I was like 17 years old, and I worked at a fitness center, just a men, women, fitness center, and I was an instructor.
Oh,
And so that was some experience. It was a great experience. I learned a lot from folks, and it was so much fun to spin that. And so from there, I got a little bit of attention to the United States military,
okay.
the Air Force specifically, because one of my coworkers had left the job. I thought he had quit, and I didn't see him for a while. I tried to contact him, couldn't contact him. He comes back in his uniform. Comes back like 8 weeks, 10 weeks later in his uniform. And I'm like, man, where you been? He said, oh man, I joined the military. I was like, wow. I was like, oh, let me think about that, because I had already graduated high school way back in 1981, which is ancient to some people, but it's kind of like yesterday for some of us. I was like, wow, maybe that might be something I want to do, because I did try college at first. When I got out of high school, went and registered and applied to go to Temple University. Did not qualify because I didn't meet the exams. Didn't pass them in the world to be able to qualify to go to the schools, because high school did not prepare me for college. And so I know that there's a lot of young Black men and women who are going through high school now, things like that, going through high schools in some of our cities across the nation, that probably are not getting prepared for college. I'm not going to say all of them. I'm going to say some, because I was one of those kids that was not prepared. So I went to community college.
Okay.
Went to community college, did that for about a year and a half. Then I was like really concentrating on going into the military, because I had at that time, by then I had a child. I had my daughter. I have 2 children. I have a boy and a girl. My daughter was my first child. I had her at the age of 20. And so I wanted to try to do something to kind of make her life be more fulfilling, and my life as well. And so I went to the recruiter and did all those things, took the ASFAB and got accepted.
Okay.
And went into the United States military, the Air Force specifically, back in 1985. And so I stayed active duty in the military until 1998, where I did an early retirement, and come out to enjoy life. A lot of my military career was spent in the Far East.
Okay.
And so visiting countries like Korea, Japan, and the Philippines back in that time was really phenomenal, because it was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of activity going on around the world specifically. But being toured there was good. I was able to have my family there, my young family, and we were able to grow up together. My kids got, the experience of being international in their education and things like that. And I really loved my stint in the military. I have no regrets, anything like that. And from there, one of the places that I was stationed at was right here in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And so back in that time in Denver, Colorado, I had always wanted to get into stuff that was going on in the community. Because when I was overseas, a lot of us got together. So this was the 90s. Okay. So in the 90s, we was all, wearing the X medallions, we was doing all these things and getting back into our Black history culture and things of that nature. So when I got to Denver, I was like, I got to find where my people are. And so got involved with some folks that hit me up to a study group was called Challenges, Choices, and Images, formulated by some educators here that worked in DPS. And they formulated this after school program for Black children where parents can drop their kids off. And then for the parents, they had a study group. And so I landed in there and met some really wonderful people who I'm still in a great relationship to this day. And we just kind of built from there. And so I just continued my journey, in doing that. And once I got out of the military in the late 90s, I decided to come back to Colorado in the early 2000s, because this is where I had really kind of had a foundation that was kind of built. I had a really solid family, friends and family that I had met there, extended family. And, I think my kids really had a great experience from being here as well. And so, so we came back here and, from there, just doing a whole lot of different community things. Landed a position as a government contractor, working for Lockheed Martin, which I still do work for Lockheed Martin. I love my company. I love what we do. And they've taken really good care of me. Okay. This is my 24th year of working with them. So I'm on the other side of my career right now, but we do a lot of work with what is considered missile defense theater protection. And so when folks ask me, what do I do? I told them, I said, well, I can't tell you what I do because I may have to kill you, kind of thing, right?
You can't leave this out. This information is too important. I love it.
Yeah. So I've held the top secret clearance for over 30 years. And, this mission that we have is definitely tantamount to our success as a nation. In keeping our borders safe, keeping our people safe, and and so it's just a great job. And so being a part of that and being a part of here in Denver, just really aligning myself with a lot of individuals who are very active in the community, and which I consider myself a social justice, righteous education for Black and Brown people here in the state of Colorado, and of course throughout the nation. But one of the main things that I did was I collaborated and connected with some colleagues of mine who are members of the Association of Black Psychologists.
Okay.
And so the Rocky Mountain chapter of this Association of Black Psychologists specifically was burgeoning into Brian creating a program for African Americans to be able to come to and be a part of a healing circle, if you will, and to have a place where they can learn about our history and our culture, have a safe space to share our stories, and learn how to be able to collaborate and co-op with brothers and sisters that may have skill sets that some of us may not have been aware of, that we can take advantage of. And being able to look at and see folks that look like you and I that are doing wonderful things professionally across the scope, right? And so this program that they created was called the Emotional Emancipation Circles. And so I went and became a certified facilitator in doing that. And this was back in the 20 teens. And so, and then since then, since like 2014, 2013, 2014, I've been a facilitator of the circles, which are now affectionately called the 7 Keys to Emotional Wellness and Black Empowerment.
Okay.
Which I'm very proud of, that I was able to collaborate with some wonderful people to create the new name.
Mm-hmm.
But working with the EEC has allowed me to be able to kind of broaden my scope of our understanding as a people. But I had that history already when from the study groups in the 90s to doing the after school programs and working with the study group here in Denver, was able to kind of advance and grow. And so it has been just a tremendous journey of mine. I mean, I love it. And the people here, I love the people here. I love the eclectic way and the diverse way that Denver is, and how our Black community in itself is pretty staunch in how they want to champion, things that really involve change and development, within ourselves as individuals and as a people, and again, and within the community as a whole. And so I really enjoy being a part of that, and focusing in on doing that on a pretty regular basis.
Well, that's so cool. There's so much to unpack here. I loved your life. I love the history and the richness of the things you've done. First, thank you for your service. Thank you for spending the amount of time in the military. My dad was in the Navy. And then when he got to Colorado here, he decided to move into the Air National Guard because he didn't want to move around as much. And so I spent my childhood over at Laurie Air Force Base. And back in the the 80s and the late 70s, I could climb up on helicopters and get into cockpits and do all the fun stuff the kids get to do. He was a photographer, so he had like carte blanche to the base, and I was able to bring a friend on his weekends and come in. And so I enjoyed that, as well as doing it. And then I think of, you talking about your, working at the fitness gym. I was a PE major, so I taught PE when I first coached and that kind of stuff. Been coaching track now for 38 years. And so that was one of my jobs back at at that time it was Family Fitness. And I was able to get my membership as a result of being there. And so I say I'm so fortunate. I was an instructor in the 90s that was teaching, as men and women how to exercise. But I got to keep my membership. So I pay like $50 a year in order to have these memberships. And I know people are paying way more than that a month. So I'll never get rid of that. And I get to do all the clubs and all that. And even though sometimes I feel like, when we talk about health, that I need to spend more time there. But it's just so unique. But I think one of the times when I open this up and I start talking to folks about, the things that you're doing with emotional intelligence, the things that you're doing with trauma, the things, I can talk about the other stuff and I think we can get to that. But I think people are going, why can't you hurry up and get to that? Because that's what I want to hear. So if you don't mind.
They don't want to listen to my boring life.
So they want to hear, I want to know what he's doing around this subject. I feel like, being part of the, Issachar, urban leadership, cohorts that I've been through, and, some of the folks that you've trained that I've now got to listen to and hear to and sit through classes. I feel like I'm a different person, and I feel like I've grown tremendously based on some of the things that you've taught. And so now you said that it's changed over to 7 keys. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Talk about like where we show up, and then this goes to identity anyways, but where we show up, and then how do we get past, I put in there, I think in your notes, how do we get past being stuck? But how do we just get past, what is our past is all about, and not just our past, but I think it's, our personal past, But I think there's that part of that DNA of, whatever hundreds of years that has been passed down in this country that become part of our belief system. So maybe you can share some of that with us today.
Yeah, that's a very good segue into talking about the seven keys. So are the seven keys are actually a foundation for brothers and sisters, for Black men and women, to be able to experience a level of community. Let's just make it plain.
Okay.
A level of community, and being a part of this healing circle is an opportunity for you to connect and reconnect, to community, be able to understand certain things. So, for instance, one of the keys is entitled African Cultural Wisdom. And so in African cultural wisdom, we kind of go back historically to understand some of the things that we may deem that may have been taboo at some time, but that we may see a lot of people practicing, different modalities and things of that nature in regards to meditation, prayer, yoga, acupuncture, and things of that nature, and how it ties in. And a lot of us are about looking at and probably are more familiar now with the term Ubuntu, which means, if not for you, then I am because of you, and so in Ubuntu, that methodology, that understanding lands on a more cellular level with people of African descent, because we're looking at, how do we reconnect? How do we tie in family? How do we tie in children? How do we tie in our children to kind of learn, to be able to be more successful and to be able to thrive? And so the 7 Key series to emotional wellness and Black empowerment is a space where brothers and sisters can come to be a part of that, share their stories, their experiences, and things of that nature, and learn more about our history and our culture, to kind of reconnect. Dr. Asa Hilliard, who's since passed, who was a very profound educator and one of our greats, said that we have to go back and retrieve what we have lost. We have a lot of people that understand and know about the term Sankofa, and so they have this. It's displayed in images in the form of a bird, and that form of a bird with its head facing backwards with an egg right there to retrieve back from what has been not necessarily lost, but missing, and retrieving that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's something that you've already known. And so Dr. Hilliard always would recommend that, go back and to retrieve what you know that is missing, and retrieve that. And then expound on it and become more aware of who you are, your history, your culture, and your people, so that you can be able to set up stepping stones and foundations and things of that nature. And so the 7 Keys gives you that. The 7 Keys gives brothers and sisters that foundation so that they can begin that journey. And then along the lines of what we talk about, how Black men specifically, how Black men get stuck, and unable to move forward. I have 5 things to get unstuck.
Okay.
So the first thing, Brian, is to tell the truth. Okay. And what I mean by that is tell the truth of who you are. Okay. Tell the truth of what you want. Tell the truth of what you are willing to do. And tell the truth of what you won't do anymore. Okay. And then the fifth one is really one of the major ones, is forgiveness. How do we forgive? I know we're talking about a little bit about trauma and these things like that, but really having the inner self, the inner work to develop, where you can have forgiveness for yourself first before you can have forgiveness for others. And then in the aspect of telling the truth, who are you? What is it that you want? And be assured and affirmed in what it is that you want, and be proactive in that process about what you want and be authentic about what it looks like for that level of change to happen in your life and where it can expound on things that will allow for that change to happen and for your life to be enriched by that change. And then when your life gets enriched, the other folks that are around you, the ones that are in your midst, in your family, your coworkers, your community as a whole, will definitely benefit from that. And knowing who you are, of course, is definitely going back to retrieving, the historical context of our history and our culture, who we are as a people,
Mhm.
our contributions to the planet, and things of that nature is just really understanding that and knowing what you want too, where and knowing what you want is understanding that some things you need to have support to be able to get what you want, right?
Mm.
So
Okay.
I have these conversations with brothers and sisters who are entrepreneurs. So these entrepreneurs, they know what they want. They really do. They want. I want to expand. I want to have this business. I want to do all these things. And I
Mhm.
was like, so what are you willing to do for it? Do you know that you can get support? How are you going to align yourself up with these individuals that can kind of help you champion the things that you want to do within your entrepreneurial venture, and how you can complement and help them as well in what they're doing. And so having that meaningful conversation and then kind of unpacking that is really the edifice of, having focus and direction on what you do. And so part of the 7 key series is, we hone in and focus in on those aspects of brothers and sisters within our community as well, and bring that out so they can feel comfortable and understanding, knowing that I have a voice, and in this voice, this is a voice of meaning, this is a voice of reason, this is a voice of healing. And so I want to be able to have this voice and be comfortable in a space that's safe to be able to do that, because the spaces have to be safe for us to be able to be in a vulnerable state where we can be that transparent and understand and know that, I'm not going to be, my business is not going to be out on Front Street. I'm protected, and things of that nature where everything is about being in that space and holding that energy at that time, to where once you walk out the door of that session, everything that goes on around in the world, you can have a better scope. It won't be as narrow. You can take the blinders off and be able to have a better scope of it. And this is just the foundation, because it's a lot of work that comes along with that experience where you have your third eye, if you will,
Mhm.
to different types of information and how you process
So do you find, and I'm loving what I'm hearing here, and having a space for people to say, this is what I want. Do you find that people that maybe have not had experience or haven't been exposed to things that have been limited in, their different experiences they have, that they really don't know what they want, and that changes as they get more experiences, as they get around people who are dreaming, people who are doing stuff? How does that work within this space?
So because it's so open, and the conversation that happens, it creates this level of trust. Okay. And so one of the 5 pillars is trust, right?
Hmm.
And so looking at how you develop trust, because someone who may have wonderful ideas and things of that nature and really want to begin to start to do some things, when you're around others that are experiencing the same types of things, it becomes more comfortable for you to be able to express that idea, that thought. And then within the group, there becomes this level of trust, which is really building community. And so in building a community, you have this level of trust where you know that my idea has value,
Hmm.
and where I want to go with this idea, I met someone today, or I met someone who knows someone that could put me in a direction to really kind of support that, and I can trust because of the way that we have engaged in sharing with one another through this process, that I feel more at will to be able to approach it from a standpoint that I can get the result that I'm looking for, but at least I'm okay with just starting. I can actually start it,
Yeah.
and so it's beautiful to see, people, and I've been doing these circles, like I said, from the mid 20 teens. So it's been like 12, 13, going on 15 years. It's 2024 now. So yeah, it's been like 13 years since I've been doing this. And so I've been experienced, and I've had a lot of experience in being able to witness, this overwhelming joy, this
Mhm.
catharsis of, wow, I did not expect to have a takeaway, like this, that I can kind of go on and move. And then we've built this relationship, and so in the circles too is what I call relating ships. And
Okay.
so, and so these relationships allow us to be able to forge those friendships, those relationships that go beyond the circle, and once you get beyond the circle, then you begin to start to build what it looks like for yourself within the community, and in the community is able to identify and say, hey, we really like this idea of what this person is doing, and what this person is doing is really going to benefit, you know, the community as a whole. So let's support this. Let's see what they can get backing for, or whatever. And it can be from any level of venture that they choose to be into. Because I've talked to all of them, whether they be educators, entrepreneurs, engineers, people want to go into medicine, people want to go into nursing, people want to be artists, people that
Mhm.
want to entertain, all these things, all these facets, that we have vehicles to be able to thrive in. It's just wonderful to be a witness, along with being a facilitator, for which I get a whole lot of benefit from. It's just being able to be a witness, to that level of change.
How you've brought up the word community several times, and I think about communities that I've been able to be a part of, whether they were, the college roommates that I had that were, famous Nigerian folks that I got to live with, or the educational settings that I've been in, and having different deans. And I know you were at Lockheed, are still there. I had a cousin who was a aerospace engineer that worked there for a while before he moved to Phoenix. Um, and just thinking of like the spaces that we've had to navigate through. And now you're doing these classes that are saying, hey, these spaces, you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. Kind
Mhm.
of talk about how important it is to be part of a community that allows folks to be themselves, but still be able to navigate
Yeah,
our business systems that we have.
yeah, it's amazing when you consider uh, community itself to be from the from the inside out.
Okay.
Dr. Naeem Akbar, he talks about the community of self first, and so the community of self has all the attributes and things of that nature from within, that you ultimately project out, that becomes this other level of community. Um, and so, uh, not to say that a person has to be on an island. Let's say that
Mhm.
we get so into these levels of, things that we can't accomplish, that we think we're the only one that's out there, that, is as to why we can't get to where we want to get to. But understanding and feeling that you can be comfortable and understanding and knowing that it's okay to, to take a fall, to take a
Mhm.
stumble, that you can get back up, reset, you know, and then go back out there, reset and then release, and then be more, and then be proactive. The essence of community is definitely around those individuals who share the same like-mindedness, the same type of areas of where we can be more productive, and not so much counterproductive. And once you get in alignment with those individuals, and they can be from any facets, because we can have them in different cells, is what I like to say. We have these different cells of community, and so in this community, we have a community cell that is focused on financial development, financial literacy, or we have one on real estate, and what it is to do real estate. We have one on education. We have one on STEM programs to get our children into these universities. We have the HBCU, what I'm saying? So it's not just saying community on a general level. You know what I mean? I know I've said it a lot, but I'm kind of trying to narrow it.
Okay.
As the focus of the like-mindedness of Black men and women, to be able to understand that, being a part of community is really expanding your scope of what it is that you like to see and what it is that you like to have happen and how you want to show up in the world. And knowing that you can get that support in doing that you don't have to be on an island. It's a choice. Mm-hmm. Really, Brian, is to say, hey, I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to make a difference in myself first, and then in making a difference in myself first, then I can make a difference in things that I want to do, from that standpoint of doing it for myself. But you're not on an island.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because I think that I've been talking to even some men that are in our age group. I think I'm like only a couple of years younger than you, and they're kind of saying to me, well, it's too late. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and we need to spend our time and focus on our youth. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of experience in there. There's a lot of where you can have something to give back, but maybe there's something we have to get through with you to change those belief systems, even at our age, that have been hindering you, stopping you, making it like that belief system that you can't, hey, I've already, my life is pretty much over. I'm just going to sit home and watch TV. What do you say to those men that are just kind of in that space where they think, well, even if they're even in their 40s at this point, they're going, hey, how do they get into community? Because I think that, I don't know if it's even harder to find folks, because if you haven't grown up through that and you haven't created those relationships, how do they get going and making sure that they can turn themselves around?
Well, Brian, here, I'll say this. I don't accept that, I've done it all and there's nothing else I need to do. I don't accept that.
Yeah.
And so if I encounter, men that are thinking like that, I ask them, is there anything that you want?
Okay.
Is anything, can you just name me one thing? And they always have something. It's not like they don't want anything, that they've done it all, and that, I'm setting my ways kind of way. That's to me, in my opinion, that's a cop out.
Yes.
And so that one thing. And so if I ask you that one thing that you want to do, that you want, what are you willing to do differently to get it? What are you willing to do differently in your life to get it? And then at that time, all the stuff starts coming out, because we're going to start talking about, well, this is why I can't get it, and so, our ego will kind of supersede and take over. This is why I can't get it. And they're like, okay. And so as you say, what I heard you say was, you can't get it because of A, B, and C. If you had, this is the next question I would ask them. If you had the wherewithal to get A, B, and C, what would you have?
Yes.
Then they're pondering. They're pondering their self-awareness. You know what I'm saying? Their spiritual, relational kind of self within. Like, wow, what would I have? And so some of the answers that I get, I would have peace. Yes. I would have happiness. I would have joy. Oh, okay. So I said, so you really do want something. Yeah. So you want peace in your life, And so in having that peace, would give you what? Oh, to give me time to know that I can, I can sit down and watch TV for how many hours I want to. I can sit at the computer, but I can also, go and be a mentor. I can also go, because this is something I really wanted to do when I was maybe back in my 30s or my early 40s, and now, I didn't see if I didn't have the time anymore. I was like, okay, but that would give you peace,
Yeah.
and having that peace, and so since you want to have peace, and this is something that you can do to do that, what would it look like for you taking the next step and doing it?
Yeah.
How would you say that to me? How would you share that with me? I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll look at my calendar. Maybe I'll go and talk to the pastor of the church. Maybe I'll go to the youth group, maybe do something, right? It is something that always comes out. So it's about how we are able to kind of connect from an inward perspective and be succinct and authentic about what it might be for them, and having a conversation instead of saying, oh, well, bro, yeah, man, I feel the same way, man. Let's go get a beer, you know what I mean? And we'll just drown out our sorrows and all that, you know what I mean? And that's, that could be, it could be a good time, but it also could be counterproductive too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and looking at that and how we talk about trauma, there's levels of trauma that we all carry.
Yes.
There's a saying that, we all have baggage,
Mm-hmm.
and that we stuff everything in the bag and we carry around this baggage. And so when we get to a point where, we attempt to do something and we show up in a way, or something shows up in our life and saying, wait a minute, I thought I was over that. I thought it was gone. I thought I did this, I had prayer. I went to a therapist and, and all these things. Right. But it's still there. Right. That's where we look at trauma from a perspective of understanding and dealing with it from the inside out. And so in understanding and dealing with it from the inside out, we have to understand that it goes back years, if not even decades, that we have been traumatized in a way that has allowed us to be able to show up in how we have our daily lives. This is how you show up in life. We don't want to show up in life no more like that. Okay, you don't want to show up in life like that. Let's look at and deal with the fact that you were left out of being picked to be on the football team, or left out being picked on the baseball team, or left out being, something like that. Or, your parents separated and your dad was gone and you really relied on your dad, and then it was just you and your mom, or vice versa, right? Whatever that trauma is, what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be something where someone gets injured or beat up or whatever, not like that. It can be emotional trauma. And a lot of us as men, we carry the emotional trauma that we don't have an outlet, and our outlets become, kind of like our, masculine, way of stimulating, those things, we do it through sports, we do it through, going to the clubs, going to the bars, and those of that nature, and doing all those things, which are not bad. Don't get me wrong, which is not bad. But when it comes down to really centralizing in on what it is that's really troubling you, we like, well, I'm not supposed to cry. We get to that, I didn't see my dad didn't cry. My granddad didn't cry. I got to man up, and the reality of it is really manning up is actually allowing yourself to be able to emote in that way to get that stuff out. That doesn't make you any less of a man than not doing it. But what it does is it helps to purify your spirit and in your way of being, so that you can be able to communicate better, be able to articulate better, and you can be able to release, and so in releasing that, I think we get caught up, and we become this group of guys that don't want to be looked at as being a punk. We don't want to be punk when we looked at as a punk. But I'm here to tell you, it's okay to be able to kind of be more inward in regards to how you're feeling, and looking at all those feelings and what it looks like for you in your life, and being able to express it, and to be able to express it, and express it in a way that it doesn't cause harm to yourself or to anyone. That's why you have to have what I call an accountability buddy. So, an accountability buddy would be the person that you would, kind of have that conversation with, and be able to kind of be able to unpack and release those types of things, to really kind of deal with it. And so how we look at and deal with trauma, where a lot of folks are looking at now saying, I think everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs, a therapist. And so in getting a coach and having a therapist, just to really kind of allow you to be able to unpack some things, so that you can kind of be able to look at the layers in your life, and you can kind of understand, like, okay, well, I need to be able to reconcile with this. I need to be able to reconcile with that. And that's where the forgiveness aspect comes in, too, of the 5 pillars.
Okay. Yes.
And understanding that forgiveness only happens when you will it to be active in how you choose to do something next.
Yeah.
How you choose to do something next. And forgiveness can also be empty. And you don't want the forgiveness to be empty, because it just sounds good to forgive. But if you really forgive, it will challenge you and will cause for levels of courage for you to be able to work through what that forgiveness looks like for you, so that you can be able to authentically and truthfully be able to forgive others in your life. You know what I'm saying? So it's a process. And so being a part of that process only allows for a wonderful catharsis about who you are, what you want to do, where you want to go, the truth about what you look like, what it looks like to you, and how you want to show up in the world.
Absolutely. So what I'm really, and I love this, because trauma is real, right? It is something that happens, and there's a part of it that's in all of us, in every aspect of, of our lives. And so one of the things I want to kind of get to the other side of on it as well is, okay, so now we've identified it in this process that you're talking about, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a buddy that you're talking through and walking through the process to identify. One of the things that I think when we talk about folks being stuck is the trauma becomes the reason. The trauma becomes the excuse. The trauma becomes the why. You talked about cop out, or, whatever that word is why I am now not succeeding, is because this happened to me, or this happened to, and sometimes I think even through whether some of the marches we go to, or some of the things that we go to, we bring on and we take on that baggage and that trauma from our communities, from our area. And all of a sudden it becomes, I can't do this. I can't excel and have a top secret clearance at Lockheed Martin because I grew up in Philadelphia. How do you begin to bring that out of people, where, yes, it happened. Yes, this was something that was serious. Yes, we need to work through it. But at the same time, we need to move forward.
Yeah. I think, Brian, that we have to establish relationships where we are being very, very authentic about who we really are, and what we really want.
Gotcha.
And not think that it's taboo or anything like that to even seek out a coach, to even seek out, a therapist. It is a lifelong journey, to be able to say that, yes, I've had things done to me that has hindered me from, making the next step. So if you're a friend, if you're my buddy, we hanging out, and you say, I want to do these things, I want to start this, 100 men, I want to have these interviews, I want to create this culture to be able to develop it, but I don't feel like I can do it because of what happened to me when I was a kid, and so as a friend, I would be like, well, what is it that you need, brother? What do you, what do you need? And if you don't, you'd be like, first thing that comes out of people's mouth is like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
I challenge them with that, saying, I think you do know. And then I'm like, I think you do know what it is that you want, because you wouldn't be having this conversation with me if you didn't know what you wanted. Yeah. You can't say I don't know. So it's all about, let's deal with the I don't know. But how do we have that conversation? We just kind of have to be more, I guess what it would be like is attentive is a good word for it. Active listener, before you become really judgmental, or you give an unrealistic expectation in regards to your answer would be, just really kind of listen. Sometimes people just need someone that will listen to them, and then you can begin to unpack. But it doesn't have to be so heady all the time. I'm saying? We can have very meaningful friendship conversations that will change the trajectory, of a lot of things that we do, and so how we as Black men can be, more succinct, but is to be more developed in, how we want to be more relatable to ourselves, our families, our friends, and then how do you do that? Then I'm like, well, how do I do that? Okay, for starters, you can begin to be an active listener, and you can be an active listener in doing that. And if there's organizations where you may have been beneficiary from getting stuff from in the past, maybe you might want to revisit them, because who knows what they can share. Or, I have this podcast, that has, these amazing Black men on here, and you can hear different ideas, different thoughts, different stories about their lives and things like that may empower you, to become, to step out into what it is that you want. You just give them options. So if you don't give anyone options, you don't give them an opportunity to know that what the possibility is, they'll remain stuck.
Yes.
I had a young man who is part of a chess team. So they play chess. Okay. So it's chess to kind of get out frustrations and things like that. Learning how to conflict resolution, and doing all these kinds of things, emotional intelligence and all that, utilizing the chessboard. And so I said, well, when you are playing chess with your opponent, right? I said, you have a strategy. And he was like, yeah. I said, so you have a skill set in the strategy to be able to take the king. You want to use your rook. You want to take the king, the queen. You want to move all the. They was like, yeah. I said, so look at how that is set up. I said, how would you like to have your life set up like that?
Yeah.
I said, so you have this board here. You have, you have your pawns, you have your castle, your rooks, and your king and your queen, right? And so you're making maneuvers. I said, how about having your life set up where you have all these things that you want to do, that you want to accomplish, and then you start to make those moves. You strategize and you do these things. You finish high school, you finish college, or you go to trade school, or you go into the military. You do, what I'm saying? They give you a pathway. I said, you get into these pathways, right, to move stuff out of the way so that you can be the victor. I said, that's why y'all play that game.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that is why we play that game. He said, I like the way you put that. And yeah. I said, just make it plain for you as you're doing it. I said, when you're playing against an opponent, think about your life. Think about how you are governing your life as you're playing. Yeah, it's fun. And it gives you that acuity, to be able to, strategize and think outside the box and do all these things. I said, but think about your life in doing that. Because when you get up from the chessboard, you still got all stuff going on out there.
Yeah.
All this static
Yeah.
going on. Let's tune out the static and tune to a channel where we can have clear, concise ideas and focus, where we can thrive and become great and be in whatever it is that we choose to do.
Man, I love that analogy. And as I'm thinking, right, because my 9-year-old grandson is, this chess guy that goes to these tournaments, and he's winning them, and he's beating me now in chess. And I'm like, I'm thinking of that analogy, going, okay, so what's the trauma from a 9-year-old beating me all the time, and the life skills that I can learn as a result? But I also see this, the strategy and the thought process and how to move the pieces, and and making it make sense and making it make a dream. Yeah. You're not gonna believe this, but we're like 4 minutes left, and we have been talking. This has been just amazing. I love how I don't love how fast it goes, but I love the content that we get. Yeah. I would love, we didn't get to all the pillars and we didn't get to everything, but I think we got to some amazing, incredible content. I want you to take the next 3 or 4 minutes and just anything that you want to make sure that folks know, that folks understand, that maybe the closing thoughts that you would say, whether it's maybe an ability to find community, whatever it is that you think, that you wish you could have talked about that we didn't get a chance to, without me asking another question that brings you forward.
Thank you for that. Yeah. What I could say is for those who will be able to see this, is that be affirmed in what it is that you know, and in that knowing, be gentle with yourself in regards to how you process through the steps to get to where you want to be. And in getting to where you want to be, allow for your others to be able to understand and know that they can be great too. You don't want to leave them behind. Don't leave them behind. Bring them up with you. And so I would encourage all those who see this after we close this broadcast, is to just kind of stay affirmed in what it is that you want, who you are, trust in what it is that you want to do, and be great in what it is, and make it happen, and allow for it to be able to be fulfilling, that it is worthwhile. And if you are able to surmount an abundance, of money, accolades, trust and love and all, and those wonderful things, so be it. But don't leave the brothers and sisters behind that will also would need to come up like that as well. And also too, in closing, I want to offer to everyone who sees this video that you are invited, all Black men, that you are invited to come to be a part of the 7 Keys to Emotional Wellness and Black Empowerment, that is sponsored by the Association of Black Psychologists, the Rocky Mountain chapter. You can go to our website, rmabsci.org, where you can find more information about it, or you can contact me. Send me an email. You can get in touch with Brian. He can connect you with all that stuff. I don't necessarily have a website right now myself, but there's some things that we can definitely venture into, and in a very constructive way, to continue our conversation and to continue this level of development. And so, Brian, I just really want to give a shout out to you, for allowing this Philly city boy to come on and share his Jones. Everybody who know Philly, you know what a Joan is, to share his Jones with y'all. And so I had a great time. I appreciate it, and would be definitely happy to come back and do it again. And thank everybody for listening and for being a part of this. And I know that this is going to be a tremendous, if not a magnanimous thing for those who follow behind me. So shout out to all y'all. And
all right, well, yeah, like I said, thank you for being on. This is what's amazing. And I hope, we'll get a chance to come on again. and thinking, I'm literally thinking, how do we take those 7 keys, put together some type of webinar, put together something where we can invite people into it so that we can do some of the training, so that we can do some of the teaching, because I just want everybody to know, and I want to say this every single time, is you can do this. You have the ability to create success in your life, getting through, whether it's a trauma, getting through these 5 pillars, that will change who you are and trajectory of your belief system. You deserve this. You don't deserve to be stuck wishing that something could happen and looking at other folks and watching folks on television, wishing that was you. It needs to be you. It absolutely needs to be you. And the third thing in here is try not to do this. I'm not even going to say try not to. Do not allow this to happen on your own. Do not try to figure out how you're going to move forward without getting help, without getting community, without, plugging in. I will definitely make sure if you just say something in the comments here, I'll make sure Kareem gets it. I'll make sure we get you there. You'll see something from us coming in the future, because this is too important. You're too important. You're destined for greatness. This is too important that you are not part of something that allows you to move forward. And so if you're watching this, if you say, hey, I just watched 4 or 5 of these and these are great, but I don't see this in me, I promise you it's in you. Every bit of it is in you. We want you to take advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah, right on.
All right. So again, thank you for another episode of the Journey to Freedom podcast. I can't wait to do another one. Can't wait for you to get on. Go ahead and subscribe, like, whatever it is that you're supposed to do here on YouTube to just make sure you're getting this incredible content. So again, Kareem, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to doing it again and talking to you some more. Have a great one.
All right, Brian. Thank you. Thank you again, Brian. Thank you.
You're welcome.